everybody. Welcome to another edition of Libertas. This is Tonino Habana. Tonight we have special guests from the Presidential Communications Operations Office, or PCOO, and they're actually running the Philippine News Agency. So our topic is regarding communicating for the government, and we can also discuss yung mga trending topics that's coming out in the media about government, governance, and issues in the government. So yung mga interesado, mag-text po kayo ng mga katanungan ninyo. We'll be flashing the number on the screen. And I hope that you mention your nickname at saka kung saan kayo nanggagaling, kung saan kayo nagte-text. Kasi importante po malaman namin kung saan kayo. To my immediate left is a person that works as a news anchor and a senior officer of the Philippine News Agency. She was a guest in the past here in Libertas for a different function. She's a reservist officer. She's a member of a very famous clan. Please welcome Pia Morato.
Hi, good evening.
It's nice to have you.
Thank you for having me again.
It's nice to have you back,
Thank
Pia.
you.
Tonino, just call me Tonino.
Tonino, thank you for having me again.
Yeah, and I'm sure our televiewers are raring to text their questions about trending issues in the government, their questions and so on. To her left, or to my far left, is the head of the Philippine News Agency, who works in Malacanang Presidential Communications Operations Office. Let's welcome Undersecretary Joel Egco. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Tonino. Good
Joel.
evening, Pia.
Hello, sir. Good evening.
Joel is a veteran newsman. He was the president of the National Press Club in the past, and he was also a writer for the Manila Times and other dailies. Until now, he's still writing for a couple of tabloids. Pia is also a columnist for the Philippine Star.
Yes.
So, wow, we have seasoned media personalities tonight communicating for the government.
Yes.
So, my first question is regarding your job. What's the most difficult part about imparting or communicating for government policy, for things that are happening in government?
Shall I go first?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Ladies first.
Was the most important part? Well, I guess it would be really how you garner not like empathy from other people, but their understanding of what the government is trying to do today for, of course, the Filipino people.
How do you deal with haters? I'm sure you have haters as well.
Yeah. I guess, that whole concept of you can't please everybody is just something that you have to really remember, because there's a common goal and we all have to keep focused on that goal. So,
Trabaho lang.
yeah, Yusek Egco.
Yes, sir.
Yung pong Philippine News Agency, parang nabuhay lang ulit yan di ba? During the administration of President Duterte, nung araw parang hindi what's the concept behind the Philippine News Agency and why was it revived?
Was a brief history of the Philippine News Agency. It was established in the early 70s, no? In fact, March 1, 1973, from the Philippine News Service, the PNS used to be parang a cooperative of newspapers, something like that. So they own that. And then, in 1973, napunta na sa government through, I think, the BNFI, that time yung PNA. And in 1987, when the government was reorganized, PNA was placed under the News and Information Bureau. And then eventually, in 2010, sinabi sa PCOO. And matagal na siya nag-exist, but this is the first time during the time of Secretary Martin Danar, na nagkaroon talaga ng magaganda, na maayos na infrastructure yung Philippine News Agency. Kaya naging updated siya sa social media. Dati website lang siya. Ngayon interactive na siya.
yes.
So basically, you're like a news network on your own, broadcasting the message of the government, and you also link up with other news agencies so that you become a source of news.
Actually, PNA is a web-based news wire service, actually. So
Yeah,
before,
wire service is
yes,
probably the right,
yes.
ano.
Wire service,
Parang Reuters
they,
and...
yes, they can, but you don't have, before, you had to subscribe eh. Ngayon, they can get stories from the PNA with proper attribution, etc. Dati sinisingil yan. Ngayon, di na. So, inano nga namin, so, open natin to sa public. Bakit pa kailangan pang manigil ka? May funded ka naman. The Philippine News Agency is the people's news agency, not just the government's news agency.
Okay. Some people would say it's for propaganda, and some people would say it's for information. Where do you? What's the difference?
Should I answer that?
We just want to be able to relate to the people, the good things that the government is doing, and I think that the people deserve that, and it's good to do those things because then we are able to have people participate. After all, nation building is all about us then, right? So if we give them that news, if we give them the good news or developments in government, then they also, since it's interactive, right, they can also participate in how and what they feel about nation building.
And if I may add, as supervising undersecretary for the Philippine News Agency, my policy is very clear, no? And I just handed down the policy from our bosses, no? So along the lines of public information, truthful information, so we don't need to rush anything. Unlike when I was with private media, unahan yan eh. Unahan eh. Sabi ko, no, you don't have to compete that way. Substance and truthfulness is our edge. Speed, give it to them. So, basta lumabas sa PNA, ang habol natin, substance, truthful, hindi siya actually serve propaganda, but it's a news service actually. So, we're just doing those things along the lines of communication.
Yeah, it's a service. Yeah.
Okay. During this era of the presidency of President Duterte, and you can also say the era of the presidency of President Trump, the term fake news has been touted, and in fact, some of the Duterte administration officials have been accused of spreading fake news. How does the Philippine News Agency counterbalance that?
As long as we're reporting what's true, what's real. So the errors of the past, what the problem with the term fake news is that it doesn't have any meaning at all. Wala namang definition of fake news eh. What I'm saying here right now may be fake news to others. So in the absence of that clear definition, I look at fake news as just a label. They're just labeling things that they don't like to hear, or anything that that's against their beliefs and all that. They can easily label them as fake news. So we have had attended actually a number of discussions about the issue. We had a roundtable discussion with ASEAN information leaders in the past, and just last month I represented the senior ASEAN senior officers of information ministers in the ASEAN in Indonesia, and we talked about fake news then. So, yun po yun. Of course, it's a global problem. No?
That's right. Just to add, I had the privilege of sitting in one of the ASEAN meets with Secretary Andanar, and like what you said, Egco said, it is like a global issue.
Yeah.
So the good part is that people, and since we're focusing on the ASEAN, people from different countries are sitting down and trying to put a resolve on this issue.
Yeah.
And it matters, but it's also a process where everybody needs to be able to learn from it, at the same time participate to make things better. And just to mention, we had that NIB, the first one, right? In Davao City also.
NIC, I think,
NIC,
National Information Convention.
Right. Yeah. And that's where everyone took an oath. Maybe you could say more about it, right?
Well,
everyone took an oath basically
The National Information Convention was the first of its kind. No, the government gathered through the Philippine Information Agency, gathered all information officers, as many. No, I think we got more than 1,500 information officers gathered in one place last February, if I'm not mistaken, and we discussed problems and approaches and recommendations and everything about things that are very important, such as fake news, matter of securing press freedom in the country, etc., etc.
I have 3 text messages that came in already, although they might be off topic, but I'll mention it anyway. Karamihan po ng problema ngayon ng tao lupa. Ngayon po dito sa Sicogon Island, matagal na walang malinaw kung saan ang para sa tao dahil sa development ng Ayala. Toto of Sicogon Island residente. I mean, do you have any comment on that or?
Maybe I should relay what Department of Agrarian Reform Secretary John Casticiones told us 2 weeks ago, that the president has directed them, to implement the second phase of the comprehensive land reform program, agrarian reform program. So tinatapos yung phase 1 and then we go to phase 2, and they're looking at, I think, 1 million hectares to be distributed to the landless in the future.
Okay, I have some other text messages which I'll read later on. We'll be going for a break, but before we go for the break, I'd like to show them this video on Camp Kanawan, which we're trying to promote. Don't go away, this is Tonino Habana. Welcome back to Libertas. This is Tonino Habana with our special guests from the Philippine News Agency. We have the head of the Philippine News Agency, Undersecretary Egco, and Pia Morato, who also works for the Philippine News Agency. I just want to go through the trending topics in the past weeks. First was the removal of Sereno and through the Waranto. What I know President Duterte has denied any hand in removal of Sereno because it's another branch of government that that affected it. But a lot of people are still suspecting that he was behind it. Do you have any opinion on that?
It would be very improper for me to talk about it because I'm not authorized actually to discuss that particular thing. But as what Secretary Harry Roque has always been pointing out, ganun yun, and you're right that it's a co-equal branch of government. So we just have to respect the decision of the court, of course. Being the final arbiter.
Do you feel that it will open the door for more accusations on the Quo Waranto model?
The decision kasi was reached by the magistrates themselves. And So, ang hirap, it's
Yeah.
their turf, it's
Right.
their realm, you know.
We
Yeah.
just probably know from history that with regard to Coaranto, it's not the first time, right, that a Coaranto has been issued to um, someone in power or in a position. It's been actually done before. So perhaps with regard to this issue, it's a learning also on how, this isn't the first time,
Yeah.
that it's happened before, and the story unfolds.
Yeah. Yeah. There have been a lot of opinions, and if you read all the, I mean, the most interesting reading is actually the dissenting opinion
Yeah.
of Justice Carpio, where he agrees that there was a deficiency in the appointment, but at the same time he doesn't agree with the way Sereno was removed. But be that as it may, a
There's-
decision was already made.
Yeah, the result will always be 8-6.
Yeah.
It's all water
Or
under the bridge.
parang whatever which way you
Yeah.
put it, it's like, that's
But-
the result.
Okay. One of the things that I'm sure you're also monitoring is if there will be a groundswell of support for the opposition because of this issue. Is there any? There have been attempts to do rallies and have they-
Actually, hindi tayo mawala ng issues.
Oo.
The Sereno issue is just one among the many issues that are being, hurled against the administration. But whenever I talk with my fellow government officials, lang naman po sinasabi namin, focus lang tayo. Because, the best propaganda is the truth. And if we don't remain focused, if we remain focused, actually, your critics will lose theirs.
And I
Well,
guess also, like, from the beginning, what's really nice to hear from the president himself is like he doesn't stop you from,
Yeah, yeah.
right? In fact,
Or
you
even
can say that
criticizing him.
Yeah, like he says, oh, go ahead, if you need to criticize me, go
And
ahead.
he never
criticize
held
me.
any journalist for that matter to court
Right.
or filed libel cases against anyone. So,
Anyway, actually, most of the texters are not interested in the national issues. Like they're more interested in something that affects them. One texter said from Cebu, "I would like to ask why retired government workers are not included in the increase in monthly pension."
Oh.
that we have to check.
Yeah. So ito yung mga texts. So they're more concerned about yung ano. This is another one.
What directly concerns them, no?
If the types of government change from democratic to federal, what will happen to our constitution if there is further change?
We actually know a better person to discuss those things. But, well, yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
it's really about, well, if you're asking me, since you know how much I love education
Yeah.
and all that, I think that it's something we need to really educate ourselves about. So I'll stop there with
Right.
that, right?
So the question is about what happens to the Constitution. Of course, we need to change the Constitution.
it has to be within the framework of the Constitution. The
Exactly,
change has to be
exactly,
within the
exactly,
framework of the
exactly.
Constitution. So, nandun pa rin yung Constitution.
Hindi mawawala po
Hindi
yun.
mawawala. Good evening. Din sa amin, lupa ang problema. Ano po magandang gawin?
Well, as I said, if you remember, even President Duterte, I think two weeks ago, no, he ordered the DAR, no, to include the whole island of Mindanao and Boracay, for that matter, in the land reform program.
Right.
Tapos, sabi nga ni Secretary Jan Casticiones of DAR, he was also given an order to study, I think, no, the phase 2 of the land reform program. Kasi there are, I think, 500,000 hectares pa from the first phase na pamimigay pa lang. And they're planning to do that in the next 10 years, 50,000 hectares yata per year. But the President said, hindi, todo nyo na. Yung phase 2 na tayo. yung mga pwedeng pamigay na government lands, pamigay nyo na. And
Actually may bayad pa rin yun eh, kahit na hindi talaga pinamimigay. May kailangan pa rin bayaran ng farmer yan on a,
marami
on a
naman
yearly
mga,
basis.
yes. At saka yung support system, kailangan yun.
Kailangan nandun din yun.
Ang sabi ng ating Pangulo, pag nagbigay ka ng bukid, bigay ka na rin ng araro. Nahalaga yun. Yung mga agrarian reform communities, and mga support systems, pataba, seeds, etc.
Okay, this is more on topic. This is from Mr. Tupas of South Cotabato. Good evening. Fake news can be regulated as long as our freedom of expression will not be suppressed, which is guaranteed under our Constitution.
Under Article 3, Section 4 of the Constitution, no law shall be passed abridging the freedom of speech, of expression, of the press, the right to peaceable assembly, and the right to seek redress of grievances. Napakalinaw po nun.
Yes.
So, tama siya. Mahirap. We're treading actually on dangerous grounds. It's a very slippery slope. If you're going to legislate a law against fake news, pakahirap niyan. It will, I believe, in my own opinion, it will not pass.
Oh, kasi halos everyone becomes a broadcaster. Kung may Facebook ka, kung meron kang Twitter, kung meron kang Instagram, broadcaster ka na eh.
And in the absence
That's
of
hard.
in the absence of a definition of fake news, nga,
Yes.
hirap nun.
Yes.
Any adverse opinion, fake news.
Right.
I'll sue you. Wala na.
Pero as long as it doesn't border on libel or
We have libel laws. The law on
slander.
libel, slander. We have law, I think that's revised penal code 194, if I'm not mistaken. Diba? Yung
So ang
false
kaibahan
information.
ang libel, if you say something bad or slander about some person na hindi totoo. Tapos yung fake news is nag-imbento ka.
Something like that. It's very
Nag-imbento
difficult
ka
to...
na maaring hindi naman nakakasira sa ibang tao pero fake yung news mo.
Parang,
Yeah, I
sige,
think
go
you're
ahead.
right, because that's always the question, that's always the pending question all the time is, how exactly do you describe
Yes.
fake news?
We can easily identify fake news sites.
Yeah,
Ah,
yeah,
tenable yung mga sites
right,
eh.
right,
Halimbawa, .com na ganito.
right.
Talagang pwede mo ipa-shutdown yan. But the problem is, pagka sinutdown nila yun, magtatayo na ng bagong page yun eh.
Right.
So, it's really very...
It's a tedious process.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a texter from Bert Sinday of Bayugan City, Agusan del Sur. Good evening, Libertas. Dapat impeachment ang nagpaalis kay CJ Sereno as per 1987 Constitution, Article 11, Section 2. At ang Senado lamang ang may power to convict. So, yun ang opinion niya. Marami pong changes in government lately. Maraming mga napalitan from high positions, cabinet secretaries, undersecretaries, secretaries. Meron pa bang mapapalitan? At saka baka pwede nyo kami bigyan ng advance tip kung sino itong mga to. Ano bang department yung papalitan?
Ang ating Pangulo lang po kasi ang nakakalam talaga. Even I myself serve at the pleasure of the President.
Yeah.
We will never know kung sino yung...
Oh, si Secretary Teo, napalitan po ni Secretary Berna Romulo Puyat. And then dahil may mga allegations of corruption, yung nabigyan ng pera yung show nila, Mr. Tulfo, makakasuhan ba sila?
Right now, actually, hindi po natin masasagot ng yes or no yan. Because...
Pero iniimbestigahan.
Well, the palace even admitted that that thing was being investigated 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
No, so parang yun na
I
nga po
think
yun.
it was
Executive Secretary yata.
right, or was it spokes
Yeah.
Harry Rocket?
Ay, yeah,
sure, yeah.
And Secretary Bongo even admitted nun, di ba?
That's
Na
right.
lahat
So it doesn't mean na nag-resign na yung secretary, extinguish na lahat ng ginawa niyang kung may pagkakamali mang nangyari.
Kung meron man, if there is going to be another, or if there is a continuing investigation, and I'm not privy about any, no? Not privy about any, doon lang po natin malalaman. So, we'll cross the bridge when we get there.
There was a very interesting column or a columnist that said that this is regarding China and our claims to, those islands in the West Philippine Sea. And he made a statement that the president is either a traitor or he's a super pragmatist when it comes to China. What's your opinion on that?
Your opinion? Yeah.
Me?
Parang ang sinasabi niya is,
I think President
tinidor ba
Duterte.
tayo ng bansa or talagang nagiging pragmatiko lang yung Pangulo natin dahil wala naman tayong magagawa sa China. So,
I have a very short and simple response to that. Our president knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I think he's a really good statesman. So
He knows what he's
he
doing.
knows what he's doing.
And
Yeah.
we'll be surprised. Yeah, I think he'll surprise many of his critics eventually. No, when the good news starts coming in.
okay.
I don't know, but he really knows what he's doing.
We will be going for a break, but before we go for the break, I'd like to ask this question. Sometimes it's difficult to second guess the president, and being under the presidential communications group,
Good question.
you have to, di ba? You have to sometimes second guess him, and sometimes you have to interpret what he just said.
Deconstruct. is the-
Reconstruct what he just said.
Deconstruct is the
Deconstruct
proper term.
or reconstruct or rephrase or explain what he just said. Because
Yes.
sometimes his statements are enigmatic, di ba?
That's right.
Or sometimes they're coded, or sometimes they're just mentioned out of parang shooting from the hip. So, please answer
Yeah,
the question after
I
the
will.
break. This is Tonino Habana.
We will.
Welcome back to Libertas. This is Tonino Habana with our special guests from the Philippine News Agency, Undersecretary Egco and Pia Morato. Before the break, I asked our distinguished guests about how difficult it is to interpret what the president just said or what his messages are in the media. Because our president is not easy to read.
Yeah.
Sometimes he's very vague, and sometimes he's just difficult to understand. So, and then aside from that, there are many other challenges that go along with that
That's right.
that job. Undersecretary, what?
Yes. Well, number one, we shouldn't take his. We shouldn't take every word he says literally, by its literal meaning. Hindi po ganon eh. No? Most of the time, we have to deconstruct what he's trying, the message that he's actually trying to convey. For instance, instead of saying na, anak, Pia Morato, I love you so much, ang sasabihin niya, if you hurt Pia, I'll kill you. That's our warning eh. Ang message niya doon, yung mga youth ko sa bansa ko, that's how I love them. Pag sinira niyo yan ng droga, I'll kill you. So, pero hindi naman ibig sabihin literal yon. Even I, myself, always tell, people who, alam mo, naliligaw sa daughter ko, for instance, pag loko mo yan, I'll kill you. Di ba? Something like that. Just to express the innermost feeling of a person, no? Yung sentiment niya talaga. Don't take him literally, no? And ang ano dyan is deconstruction. We have to deconstruct before to understand. To understand the president, ganon.
So, is there someone in the PCOO that really understands him 100%? I mean, kasi what you're saying is kailangan i-analyze pa, i-deconstruct pa yung statement niya.
Hindi naman, not all the time naman yun eh.
Oo.
Kumbaga, ang mahirap kasi, some people are, special the critics, diba? Literal agad, no? Tapos, minsan out of context. Nangyayari talaga yan. Pag may sinabi siya, ito lang ang pick up, but when you listen to the entire thing, the entire paragraph for instance, iba pala yung yung
I guess what
context.
yeah, what along those lines, so what Yusek's trying to say also is like you're able to really get the message, you know, point out the message, right, and or really look or see the message, right, detect the message, and also if I can add at the very beginning, of course, there was a time even like in on my end, like I would sometimes be so shocked or surprised, you know. But then I speak Spanish, as you know, and in a second language, I'm also very emphatic. I get to say things in, you know, with a different feel. And it took a friend of mine to say, "You're no different." Because we spoke Spanish together, and it took a friend of mine to say, "You're no different. You just say exactly the same thing, just in a different language." Right? So sometimes that's how it turns out as well.
But initially, when he was first elected, you know, in diplomatic circles, you have to choose the right words, di ba? In dealing with foreign governments,
Right.
you have to choose the right word. So that sometimes becomes a problem because sometimes plain language and clear language is needed when you're dealing with another
Exactly, but
country.
But also from my experience along those lines, there are different occasions wherein, you know, because we are from different countries, there have been like misinterpretations, right? So it's very common, but at the same time, it's very easily resolved. Since you have a relationship, you're able to get back to one another and, you know, just say, oh, this is what was meant, and this is how things are.
Yes.
And then at the same time, you have a basis because it's a relationship. Like you know the available partnerships, right? So
Yeah.
I guess it's just part of it
Yeah,
as well.
and if I may add, no, well, alam naman natin, boto ng taong bayan nagpanalo sa kanya, not the diplomatic community. So the people loved him for being a straight talker, di ba? Ito, pero ayoko niyan. But yun, ganun si Presidente. That's how he won the hearts of the people. No keme.
This is a majority.
Yeah, no keme. Hindi tayo, should I choose this word over this word? Of course not. This is what I want to say. This is how I think. This is how I feel.
So did the Presidential Communications Office ever have to go back to him and say, "Boss, tama ba itong interpretation namin dito sa sinabi mo?"
So
Or
far-
because you're the one that gives the official statement, di ba? Eventually.
Even during the time of spokesman Ernie Abella pa, they're doing that actually because there's a separate content team, no, doing that actually.
Before we go on, I'd like to, because you spent the time come here and be interviewed, I'm going to give you some 2,500 worth of gift certificate from Vine Holistic
Thank you.
Aesthetic Clinic. I actually patronize that clinic.
Wow.
And
Magiging ganito ba ang katawan ko?
oh,
Ako rin.
yes. Pwede.
Alright, masubukan na.
Okay, here's another texter from Mr. Tupas of South Cotabato again. Good evening. The President is always lambasting America, but based on record, he was not formalized our withdrawal diplomatic relations in America through formal offer, and the President written documents or even through DFA. Still, America is a big investor. Yeah.
Well, sagot dyan, simple lang din. The character of a man cannot be measured by what he says, but by what he does. Ganyan eh.
Good one.
That's why I love the President so much. Ganun din ang tingin ko eh.
Okay, from Kamaong, Japs Kamaong of Datupiang, Maguindanao, tanong ko po kay Yusek Egco, tama po ba na waranto ang legal na proseso sa pagtalsik kay Chief Justice? Ito yung pinag-usapan natin kanina.
Tinanong na po yan sa Supreme
Oo.
Court at dinesisyonan na po nila yan. Kaya ako po ay hindi abogado, pero nagsalta na po ang final arbiter natin. Ang sabi nga ng spokesman natin nung nakaraang araw, pwede naman yung motion for reconsideration. So, yun po yun. I think they're on the right track, no? Kasi nangyari po eh. If not, Hindi mangyayari yan.
From Engineer Fel Libunao o Kidapawan City, magtatanong po sana ako tungkol sa 1% ng mga senior citizen kung paano po ito pakinabangan at sino po ang tamang tao lapitan.
1%?
So 1%, hindi ko alam yun.
Kaibigan po natin si Congressman Francisco Datol ng Senior Citizens Party list.
Baka
I-refer
pwede
ko po sa kanya.
ipaabot sa kanya.
Tatanong ko po
That's
sa kanya.
what's good about PCOO. You know, we get the chance to be able to relay.
That's right.
Yeah, and then the other issues that came out recently was the lifting of the ban for Kuwait. So are Filipinos now workers allowed to go and work in Kuwait? And what was the real issue there? Why was there a diplomatic problem with Kuwait?
Well, not one of us is from the DFA. Nagatmasok sa isip ko. Baka sabihin ng DFA naman.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry, but
Well,
rather
I
not.
think the only thing we
yeah.
can really say is that since the ban has been lifted,
Yeah.
that's pretty good news.
Yeah, that's yeah. The other issue is Benham rice and renaming it. What's the significance of that for our country?
Well, as I was telling Pia earlier, when I was with the Times pa, I wrote a story about Benham rice. No? Again, nobody was talking about Benham rice in 2012, but I heard from somewhere that I think it was an international organization that I'm not sure if it was the UN that eventually decided that rice is ours. So kita ko yun, and then I wrote about it. So that was a few years back. And when people started talking about Benham rice now, I felt so happy about it. Kasi that time, wala. Pero I knew for a fact na very rich in marine resources din yung area.
So again, it's like now more people are involved.
Yeah.
In, understanding what.
Nabuhay
Yeah.
because of the president.
Yeah, yung Benham rice po is in the Pacific Ocean. And walang mga
Other
katabing-
side.
o kabilang side ng Pilipinas yun sa eastern part ng Philippines. So ang Pilipinas walang kaagaw dun sa Benham rice and it's said to be richer in natural resources
Exactly.
compared to the West Philippine Sea where so many are
Claimants.
claiming. What's the most challenging, I know I asked this a while ago, what's the most challenging part of your job, Yusek?
Yan.
I understand you're also in charge of protecting media
That's right.
personalities.
That's right.
So what's the
So-
most difficult part of your job?
Well, realizing how difficult our job is when I joined this government, isa lang nakita kong matinding challenge. We have the message. It's how we're going to effectively send it across. That's a challenge. Why? Number one, sometimes most of the time, alam mo naman ng media, they're not there to support government or to praise government. Unwritten rule yan eh. And we have, to cite statistics, we have 436 cable and TV stations nationwide, all private. We have 411, if I'm not mistaken, AM stations, all private. We have 1,014, if I'm not mistaken, FM stations, all private. And we have more than 400 newspapers nationwide, all private. Alam mo kung ilan government, sir? I think we have only around 40 or so stations. Imagine that. Ito yung private, ito tayo. That's why Sec Andanar is on the right track. Kasi gusto niya talaga palakasin ng radio, especially, ang reach ng TV. Ang PNA, yan, social media kasi ang PNA, web-based siya. So, yun ang challenge. Because, for instance, kahit gaano kaganda, experience ko, nung may pinatay halimbawa na radio black timer, that's my job I'm in charge of running after those who kill or maim or threaten journalists. For instance, the other day, last weekend, may pinatay sa Pagadian. Story agad. Laki agad storya. Then we followed up, nagkaroon ng follow-up operations. The government was able to kill 3 of the suspects, wound 1, and we're running after 3 more suspects, 3 other
What
suspects.
was the reason for the
Pero
killing?
walang storya.
What was the reason for the killing? Vendetta or may nakasagasaan na ano?
Parang gano'n ang sinasabi, may vendetta angle. But that was not really related to his work, no, as a broadcaster. So yun yung challenge. Kung lalabas lang natin sa government media, hindi talaga kinukuha ng ang ABC ng social media, nakakalaban tayo. But yung yung DE class, yun yung pinaka sa ilalim, naabot ng mainstream yun. Social media, hindi na. Kulang nga tayo ng infrastructure, mga radio sa ilalim. We need to really strengthen improve our platform.
Well, thank you so much for being our guest. I'd like to take this opportunity to allow you to give your parting messages, starting with Pia. Maybe you want to greet your abuelo.
Hi, Sport. Te quiero mucho, you know that. And I'd also like to thank our boss, Secretary Martin Andanar, for a job well done, actually. He has such a mandate that's so huge, you know. And I'm just a very small part at the Philippine News Agency, but I can personally tell you what a big improvement it has been since the time of President Duterte. No, it's been unprecedented. So I'd like to say hello to my friends also, my colleagues at the Philippine News Agency. I have a co-anchor also, his name's William Theo. So you'll see us there, and our supervising head, of course.
Supervising Undersecretary. Yeah.
You say?
Egco.
Yes, well, as you can see, Pia is among the great improvements at the Philippine News Agency. No? Yeah, no? At least may pagmamalaki na natin. From nothing, from practically nothing, talagang maganda na improvement talaga sa Philippine News Agency now. And we continue to strive to be better in terms of performing our mandate. In fact, we have a draft department order na revitalizing the PNA. And hopefully, mapirma nito ni Secretary Andanar.
Okay, thank you so much for your time. This is Tonino Habana signing off. This is Libertas. Thank you.